It started with laughter. My partner and I, together for nearly 5 years, were solid. Or so I thought. We had our routines, quiet weekends, shared passwords, and those unspoken understandings only time can build. And then there was him, Ravi, my partner's best friend since college. He was always around. The third wheel I tolerated, sometimes even enjoyed. Witty, bold, annoyingly observant. He had a way of noticing things no one else did, like how I preferred lemon in water, or how I pulled at my sleeves when nervous. He teased me constantly. Silly things at first. "Don't look at me like that," he'd say when I rolled my eyes. "Jealousy suits you." When I asked too many questions about his flirty banter with other women, he said it all with a smirk that lingered just a second too long. My partner laughed it off. "Ignore him. He's just messing with you." And I did. Until I couldn't. At a dinner one night, Ravi sat beside me while my partner was busy on a work call. He leaned in and whispered, "You really let him talk to you like that?" referring to a sarcastic remark my partner made moments earlier. I froze. It was the first time his teasing felt protective, maybe even possessive. His voice wasn't loud, but it hit differently. I brushed it off, but my heart was racing for reasons I didn't understand. The next few weeks, the teasing continued, only it became sharper. "I think you like the attention," he said once when I playfully argued with him. I laughed, but I felt heat rise in my cheeks. I wasn't sure if it was anger or something else. He began texting me memes, inside jokes that excluded my partner. "Don't tell him, he'll just get jealous," he once wrote, after sending a selfie of the two of us from a group hangout. I didn't tell. I told myself it didn't matter. But when I looked through the messages later that night, I reread them. Twice. Then came the touch. Harmless in context, a hand on the lower back as he moved past me in the kitchen. But it stayed there a second longer than it should have. Long enough that I felt it in my chest. I didn't flinch. I didn't stop it. I just let it happen. Later that evening, my partner joked, "You and Ravi should have your own show. You bicker so much." I laughed because it was easier. But there was an ache in my stomach, a twisting unease I couldn't name. I started wondering if I was imagining things, overthinking harmless jokes. But the way Ravi looked at me wasn't friendly. It was something else, something deliberate. It didn't feel like teasing anymore. It felt like a game. And I wasn't sure who was winning. It started happening more often, moments I couldn't explain away. Ravi would text me late at night, just checking in, asking how my day was, sharing things he claimed were too boring for the group chat. I'd reply, at first politely, then more freely. It felt easy, unfiltered. He made me laugh in ways my partner hadn't in a long time. I told myself it was harmless. Friends talk. Friends joke. But I stopped showing the messages to my partner, and that silence felt heavier than any words. One evening, my partner had to cancel dinner, last-minute work thing. I was annoyed, not because I was left alone, but because I had gotten dressed up without realizing who it was really for. Ravi showed up instead, claiming he didn't want me to waste good wine alone. He brought dessert, laughed at all the right moments, noticed the small things. "He should be grateful," he said casually. "You're the kind of woman who makes an empty room feel full." I didn't respond, but I felt something bloom inside me, attention, affection, guilt. We started meeting without telling anyone. Not planned, just happening. Coffee after work. A walk when we both happened to be free. One evening, sitting across from him, I realized I was sharing things I hadn't even told my partner. Not secrets. Just truths. Feelings I'd hidden even from myself. Ravi listened. Really listened. "I see you," he said once, voice low. Even when he doesn't. That line stayed with me. Echoed in my mind as I lay in bed beside the man I thought I'd spend my life with. My partner was distracted, distant, always tired. I stopped trying to get his attention. I had someone else giving it freely. It happened slowly. A shoulder touch, a hand lingering on mine. Our laughs lasting too long. Once, in the back of a cab, his thigh pressed against mine, and neither of us moved. I looked at him. He looked back. And in that second, I knew we had crossed an invisible line. One night, After another of those not quite innocent meetups, we ended up back at his apartment. It wasn't planned. That's what I told myself.
"We can talk here," he said. The door closed.
The room was quiet. I should have left. I didn't. We sat close. Too close. He reached out, tucked my hair behind my ear. His fingers trailed down my neck, and my breath caught.
He leaned in.
I didn't stop him. The kiss was soft, unhurried, familiar in a way that made my heart ache. When I pulled away, I couldn't speak. He didn't say anything either. There was nothing to say. I went home, washed my face, climbed into bed beside my partner. He didn't stir. I lay awake, heart racing, pulse in my throat. I hadn't told a single lie, but I had betrayed him just the same. And I knew it was only the beginning. It didn't take long after that kiss. My partner and I, we pretended it together for nearly 5 years. For a few days, things were quiet. Or so I thought. Ravi didn't text as much. We had our routines, and I avoided him altogether. Shared passwords. I tried to snap back to normal, those unspoken smile at my partner, ask about his day. Plan a weekend getaway like nothing was unraveling. My partner's best friend since college. But I was restless. He was always around. Everything about my life felt staged. The third will I tolerated, sometimes even enjoyed. When Ravi finally did reach out, annoyingly observant immediately. He had a way of noticing things no one else did, all he like said. How I preferred lemon and water, or we didn't talk how much I pulled at my sleeves when nervous. It was raining. He teased me. I stood in his doorway for a long silly things time at first before stepping Don't look inside. At me like that. He looked at me. He'd say when I rolled my eyes, I was already his. Jealousy suits no you. Jokes this time. When I asked too many questions about his flirty banter with other women, that look. He said it all with a smirk that lingered. I don't know who moved first. My partner laughed it off without hesitation. Ignore him. There was nothing gentle about it this time. And I did. No pause. Until I couldn't. No resistance. At a dinner one night, just a release Ravi of everything sat beside me while my partner was busy on a work call. The room disappeared. He leaned in all and that mattered was touch. You really let him talk to you like that? Escape. Referring to a sarcastic remark my partner made like moments earlier. They had always known it. I froze. I didn't stop. It was the first time his teasing felt afterward. Protective. We lay tangled even in possessive. His body wasn't loud, but my chest was heavy. I brushed it off, waiting for regret to hit. My heart was racing for reasons I didn't understand. I looked at him the next few weeks and hated how right it continued. Only it became sharper. I didn't miss my partner in that moment. I think you liked the attention. That scared me. Once when I playfully argued with him. Slowly. I laughed. I tried to return to life heat rise as if nothing had happened. I wasn't sure if partner kissed my forehead something like he always did. He began texting me memes. We watched inside jokes that excluded my partner. My body sat beside him. He'll just get jealous. My mind stayed in that room after sending a selfie of the two of us from a group hangout. Every touch. I didn't tell. Every breath haunted me. I told myself it didn't matter. Ravi didn't text the next day. But when I looked through the messages later that night, when he finally did, it was short. Twice. We need to talk. Then came the touch. I knew what that meant. Harmless in context. I met him again. A hand on the lower back, expecting some version of regret in the kitchen or apology. But it stayed there a second longer than it should have. You felt it too. Long enough that I felt it in my chest. I didn't answer. I didn't flinch. He smiled like he had already won. I just let it something in his tone changed. Later that evening, like he knew the power he had now. You and Ravi should have your own show. We kept meeting so much. It wasn't love. I laughed. It was hunger. It was easier. We weren't building. But there was an ache in my stomach. We were escaping something else. Unease. Every time I told myself, I started wondering if I was imagining. Every time I went back, overthinking. I started resenting my partner. But the way Ravi looked at me wasn't friendly. I didn't recognize myself. Something deliberate. But it didn't feel like teasing anymore. Ravi had become a mirror like a game for everything I thought, and I wasn't sure who was winning. Passion. It started happening more often. Validation. Moments, but every time I left him away, I felt Ravi would text me late at night, emptier, just checking like in, something was being how my day was, piece by sharing piece. Things he claimed were too boring for the group chat. I had given that up the first time I answered his politely, message. Then more freely. The affair wasn't about love. It felt easy, unfiltered. It was about being seen. He made me laugh in ways my partner hadn't. I knew eventually someone was going to get hurt. I told myself it ended the way these things always do. Friends talk, messy, quiet and too late. But I stopped showing the messages not because I told him, and that silence felt heavier than any message I forgot to delete. One evening, my partner had to cancel dinner right away. Last minute work thing. He just stared at the screen. I was annoyed. Then at me, not because I was left alone, seeing a stranger, but because I had gotten dressed up without realizing who it was really for. I sat still. Ravi showed up instead, waiting for him to decide he didn't want me to waste good wine alone. He didn't yell. He brought dessert. He didn't accuse. Laughed at all the right moments. He asked one question. Noticed the small things. I
He
couldn't
should be
answer.
grateful, he said
Not in a
casually.
way that would make
You're
sense.
the kind of woman who makes
Not in
an
a way
empty
that
room
would
feel
undo
full.
anything.
I didn't respond.
He left that night,
but I felt
took a
something
bag
bloom inside
and
me.
his silence.
Attention.
I didn't hear from him
affection,
for days.
Guilt.
When he
We
finally
started
called,
meeting without
his
telling
voice was
anyone.
colder than I'd
Not
ever
planned,
heard. Just
I
happening.
loved you, he said.
Coffee after work.
Even when you stopped being
a
present.
walk when we both
Even when I
happened
knew
to be
something
free.
was off.
One evening,
I wanted to tell
sitting
him I
across
had
from
loved
him,
him too.
I
but
realized I
knew
was
how
sharing
hollow that would
things I
sound.
hadn't even told
You don't
my
cheat
partner.
on someone you
Not
love.
secrets.
Not like
Just
that.
truths.
Not repeatedly.
Feelings I'd hidden
I went
even
to see
from
Ravi
myself.
after.
Ravi
He opened the
listened.
door like
Really
he was expecting
listened.
me to come
I
running.
see you.
He looked
He
smug,
said once,
proud,
voice
like
low.
he'd won.
Even
But
when he
I
doesn't.
didn't feel like a prize.
That line stayed with
I
me.
felt broken.
Echoed in my mind
I told him
as
what
I lay in
happened.
bed beside
He
the
didn't
man
apologize.
I thought I'd spend
Instead,
my life
he
with.
shrugged.
My
You
partner
chose
was
this, he
distracted,
said.
distant,
We both
always
did.
tired.
That's when
I
it
stopped
hit me.
trying to get his
He
attention.
wasn't what I wanted.
I had someone
was
else
just
giving
what I
it
ran
freely.
to when everything
It
else
happened
started
slowly.
slipping.
He
A
never
shoulder
loved
touch.
me.
A
He
hand
just liked
lingering
winning.
on mine.
I left
Our laughs
without another
lasting
word.
too long.
I didn't
Cry in the
Once,
cab.
in the back
I
of a
didn't
cab,
text him after.
his thigh pressed
I deleted
against
every
mine,
message,
and neither of us
every
moved.
photo. I looked
Every
at him.
reminder.
He looked
It
back.
didn't bring relief.
And in that
It
second,
brought emptiness.
I knew we had
I
crossed
thought losing
an
my
invisible
partner
line.
would be the hardest
One
part.
night, it
After
wasn't.
another of those
It was facing
not quite
myself,
innocent meetups.
the person I became.
We ended up back
the
at his
choices
apartment.
I made.
It wasn't
the damage
planned.
I caused.
That's what I
Friends
told myself.
stopped calling. We can
The
talk
silence
here,
was
he said.
louder than anger
door
ever
closed.
could be. The room
Everyone
was
knew,
quiet, and no
I
one
should
said
have left.
anything.
I didn't.
Judgment lingered
We
in
sat
glances.
close.
In the
Too
absence
close.
of invitations.
He reached out,
in the way
tucked
people
my hair
changed
behind
the
my
subject
ear.
when I entered
His
a
fingers
room.
trailed down
I
my
stayed
neck,
home more,
and my breath
I
caught.
told people
He
I was
leaned
focusing
in.
on myself.
I didn't stop him.
In truth,
The kiss was
I was
soft,
unraveling
unhurried.
quietly,
It's been
familiar in a
months.
way that
He
made
never
my
came
heart
back.
ache.
I never
When I
tried to
pulled
reach
away,
Ravi again.
I couldn't speak.
I don't think about
He
love
didn't
anymore.
say anything
Not
either.
the way I used
There
to.
was nothing to
I
say.
think about loyalty.
I went home,
about trust.
washed my face,
about the weight
climbed
of a
into
single
bed
moment,
beside my partner,
and how it can
He
undo
didn't stir.
years.
I
I
lay
replay
awake,
the beginning
heart
often.
racing,
The
pulse in
teasing,
my throat,
the laughs.
I hadn't told a
the
single
first
lie,
glance that lingered
but I had
too long.
betrayed him just the
I
same.
wonder what would have happened
and I knew
if I'd
it was
walked
only
away
the
then.
beginning.
If I'd told the truth early, even just to myself. But I didn't. And now all I have are pieces of a relationship, of a version of me I can't get back. Some mistakes don't come with second chances. This was one of them.